Subway used to be everywhere you looked. Strip malls, gas stations, airports, even inside Walmart stores. Since 2002, they held the lead as America's most widespread fast food chain, with over 20,000 U.S. locations, surpassing both McDonald's and Starbucks in store count. But if you've been paying attention lately, you might have noticed something strange. Subway locations are disappearing. Thousands of them have closed permanently, and the ones that remain often look empty. But how did the world's largest restaurant chain lose its edge so completely? The answer takes us back to where it all began. That empire actually started with just $1,000 and a teenager who was panicking about his future. Fred DeLuca was 17 years old, working at a hardware store in Connecticut, and staring at medical school tuition bills he couldn't possibly afford. This wasn't some privileged kid with big dreams. This was a working-class teenager who needed money fast, and college wasn't getting any cheaper. Fred's life changed during a backyard barbecue conversation with Peter Buck, a family friend who happened to be a nuclear physicist. Most adults would have told a 17-year-old to focus on his studies and maybe get a better part-time job. But Peter Buck had a different idea. He suggested Fred open a submarine sandwich shop, and here's the surprising part. He offered to lend him the startup money. A nuclear physicist backing a teenager's sandwich shop might sound crazy, but Buck saw something in the concept that others missed. The two partners opened their first location in Bridgeport, Connecticut on August 28, 1965. They called it Pete's Super Submarines, which seemed like a perfectly reasonable name at the time. The company was initially incorporated as Doctors Associates, a nod to DeLuca's ambition to attend medical school and Buck's doctorate, which shows how practicality shaped even their earliest branding decisions. But when they started running radio advertisements, something unexpected happened. Listeners kept calling and asking about pizza. People were hearing Pizza Marines instead of Pete's Super Submarines over the radio waves. The name was confusing potential customers, and in the restaurant business, confusion kills sales. This radio mishap forced them to rebrand, and after cycling through several options, they settled on Subway in 1968. The name change wasn't part of some grand marketing strategy. It was a practical solution to a communication problem that accidentally created one of the most recognizable brand names in America. This same simplicity would power their next major leap, franchising. What made their concept truly revolutionary wasn't the name, though. It was the radical simplicity of their operation. While other fast food restaurants needed expensive fryers, grills, and complex kitchen equipment, Subway needed almost nothing. They sliced meat, added vegetables, and put everything on bread. No frying oil to change, no grill temperatures to monitor, no complicated cooking procedures to train staff on. You could literally teach someone to make a Subway sandwich in under an hour. This simplicity meant their startup costs were incredibly low compared to other restaurant concepts. A typical McDonald's franchise required hundreds of thousands of dollars in equipment and specialized kitchen systems. A Subway needed some refrigerators, a few prep tables, and basic sandwich-making supplies. The barrier to entry was so low that ordinary people, teachers, mechanics, office workers, could actually afford to open their own location. But the genius wasn't just in the low costs. A simple setup meant Subway could fit literally anywhere. Other restaurants needed specific building layouts with proper ventilation for fryers and space for drive-thrus. Subway could squeeze into a corner of a gas station, set up shop in a hospital cafeteria, or occupy a small storefront in a strip mall. They weren't competing for prime restaurant real estate because they didn't need traditional restaurant spaces. The early years weren't smooth sailing, though. Growth stalled after they reached 16 locations, and Fred and Peter realized they had a problem. They could open stores themselves, but it was slow and capital-intensive. That's when they made the decision that would change everything. They started franchising in 1974. Instead of opening stores with their own money, they would teach other people to open stores using the franchisees' money. The franchise model was perfect for their simple concept. Since the operations were so straightforward, they could train new franchisees quickly without worrying about complicated procedures or expensive mistakes. A new Subway owner didn't need years of restaurant experience or culinary training. They needed basic business sense and the ability to follow simple systems. With franchisees only needing a basic water and electricity footprint, growth accelerated rapidly from those original 16 stores to dozens across the country. This flexibility allowed Subway to expand into locations that other chains couldn't touch. They opened inside Walmart stores, gas stations, truck stops, airports, and college campuses. While McDonald's and Burger King fought over corner lots with drive-through access, Subway was quietly setting up shop everywhere people might want a quick sandwich. By the 1990s, this approach was paying off in ways Fred and Peter never could have imagined. Their simple sandwich concept was spreading across America faster than anyone expected, and they were just getting started. What started as a teenager's desperate attempt to pay for college was becoming something much bigger. But the real question was how this basic concept would actually challenge the fast food giants. The challenge came down to 3 strategic pillars that Subway executed better than anyone expected: freshness, value, and health. These weren't just marketing buzzwords. They became the foundation of everything Subway did. And they worked so well that competitors are still trying to copy them today. The freshness strategy started with something most fast food chains were afraid to do. They let customers watch their food being made. While McDonald's and Burger King hid their operations behind walls and heat lamps, Subway put everything out in the open. You could see the vegetables being sliced, watch your sandwich being assembled, and even point to exactly which tomatoes you wanted. This transparency was revolutionary in an industry built on speed and standardization. But the real game changer came in 1983 when Subway made a decision that seemed expensive and unnecessary at the time. They started baking bread in every store. Most fast food restaurants received their bread pre-made from centralized bakeries, wrapped in plastic and shipped frozen. Subway chose to install ovens and have employees bake fresh bread throughout the day. The upfront costs were significant, but the payoff was immediate and powerful. That fresh bread aroma became Subway's secret weapon. You couldn't walk past a Subway without smelling it, and that smell triggered something psychological in customers. The scent of baking bread made people hungry and created an impression of quality that no amount of advertising could match. Other chains tried to replicate this later, but Subway had a massive head start. The word fresh soon appeared everywhere in Subway's branding. Their slogan became "Eat Fresh," stamped everywhere from signage to packaging to reinforce the theme. They weren't just selling sandwiches. They were selling the idea that their food was different from typical fast food. Fresher, healthier, made right in front of you with ingredients you could actually identify. Value was the second pillar, and Subway understood that price mattered more than most restaurants realized. On opening day back in 1965, they priced their sandwiches between 49 and 69 cents when competitors were charging significantly more. This wasn't just introductory pricing. It was a long-term strategy to make Subway accessible to everyone. The value strategy reached its peak with what became their most famous campaign ever, the $5 footlong. Launched in early 2008, this promotion came with a simple jingle that got stuck in everyone's head. The campaign was so successful that people still remember it decades later, and competitors launched their own footlong promotions trying to capture some of that magic. The timing of the $5 footlong campaign was perfect, though Subway probably didn't realize it at the time. The promotion launched just months before the 2008 stock market crash and recession. When families suddenly had less money to spend on dining out, Subway was already positioned as the affordable option. While other restaurants struggled with declining sales, Subway's value message resonated even more strongly with cash-strapped consumers. Health became the third pillar, and this is where Subway really separated themselves from traditional fast food. Instead of promoting indulgence like most chains, they positioned their sandwiches as the healthier choice. They brought in celebrity athletes as spokespeople, showing that even professional sports stars chose Subway when they wanted to eat well. But Subway's biggest health marketing success came from an unlikely source, a regular college student named Jared Fogle, who lost 245 pounds eating Subway twice daily. His personal transformation story would become so compelling that Subway's chief marketing officer would later attribute as much as half of the company's growth to this one person's campaign. This combination of freshness theater, unbeatable value, and health positioning created something unprecedented in fast food. Subway wasn't just competing with other sandwich shops. They were offering an alternative to the entire fast food industry. While other chains fought over who had the best burger or the crispiest fries, Subway was asking a different question. What if fast food could actually be good for you? They were about to discover just how powerful that message could be. That spokesperson turned out to be worth more than Subway ever imagined. According to their own chief marketing officer, Jared Fogle was responsible for as much as half of Subway's growth during his campaign years. One person's story drove half the expansion of what would become the world's largest restaurant chain. Jared wasn't a celebrity or professional spokesperson when this all started. He was just a regular college student at Indiana University who weighed 425 pounds and was desperately trying to lose weight. In 1998, he started eating at Subway twice a day. A 6-inch turkey sub for lunch and a footlong veggie sub for dinner, along with baked chips and diet soda. He also started walking more, but Subway became the centerpiece of his routine. The results were dramatic. Jared lost 245 pounds in less than a year, dropping from 425 pounds to 180 pounds. His transformation was so remarkable that a friend who worked at the Indiana Daily Student newspaper wrote an article about it. The story was titled, "Student Loses 245 Pounds Thanks to Subway Diet," and it caught the attention of a Chicago advertising executive who happened to see it. That newspaper article changed everything. Subway's advertising agency contacted Jared and convinced him to appear in a commercial. The first ad aired locally in Chicago, showing Jared holding up a pair of size 60 pants he used to wear. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Subway's Chicago locations saw sales increases, and the company realized they had stumbled onto something powerful. The campaign expanded nationally, and Jared became a household name almost overnight. Over the next 15 years, he appeared in over 300 Subway commercials. Those oversized pants became his signature prop. He would hold them up to show just how much weight he had lost. The visual was simple, but incredibly effective. Anyone could understand the transformation just by looking at those massive pants. Jared's cultural impact went far beyond advertising. He became the Subway guy in American popular culture. He even became the focus of a South Park episode. Talk show hosts made jokes about him. People recognized him on the street. He wasn't just selling sandwiches anymore. He was representing the idea that you could change your life through better food choices. This unprecedented marketing success spurred explosive growth. During Jared's peak years from 2000 to 2015, new Subway locations opened at an incredible pace, sometimes 3 new stores every single day. They spread into small towns where McDonald's was the only fast food option. They set up shop in gas stations, strip malls, airports, and college campuses. The numbers were staggering. Subway reached approximately 27,000 locations in the United States and over 44,000 worldwide. They had more locations than McDonald's and Starbucks combined. In many American towns, you could find 2 or 3 Subway locations within a few miles of each other. The brand was everywhere you looked. This expansion coincided perfectly with 3 major trends. Health consciousness was rising, value was becoming more important due to economic uncertainty, and convenience was king in an increasingly busy world. Subway delivered on all 3. Jared proved they were healthy, the $5 footlongs showed they were affordable, and their locations made them incredibly convenient. The success seemed unstoppable. Subway wasn't just winning against other sandwich shops. They were competing with the entire fast food industry and winning. Their message was clear. You don't have to choose between convenience and health, between fast and good for you. Jared was living proof that you could eat fast food every day and still lose weight. Behind the scenes, everything was clicking. The franchise model was printing money for both Subway corporate and individual franchise owners. The simple operations meant new locations could open quickly and start turning profits faster than complex restaurant concepts. The brand recognition was so strong that new locations often succeeded just by opening their doors. Subway had achieved something remarkable in the restaurant industry. They had created a brand that people actually felt good about eating at. While customers might feel guilty about a Big Mac or ashamed about frequent pizza orders, eating at Subway felt like a responsible choice. Jared had given them permission to eat fast food without the guilt. But this incredible momentum was about to hit a wall that no one saw coming. In 2016, for the first time in its 51-year history, Subway closed more restaurants than it opened, beginning a run of nearly 1,000 net closures per year. The company that had been opening 3 new stores every day was suddenly shutting down at an alarming rate. The problems started hitting Subway from multiple directions simultaneously, creating a perfect storm of crises. The first major blow came in 2013 when Fred DeLuca, the teenager who had built this empire from a single $1,000 loan, was diagnosed with leukemia. DeLuca wasn't just the founder. He was the driving force behind every major decision Subway had made for nearly 5 decades. He understood the business better than anyone else and had personally overseen their explosive growth. As his illness progressed, DeLuca was forced to step back from day-to-day operations. Sales began slipping just as he stepped back due to leukemia and died in late 2015. He passed control to his sister, but this transition happened at the worst possible time. Subway needed strong leadership to navigate the challenges ahead, but instead they found themselves without the person who cared about the company more than anyone else. When DeLuca died, Subway lost not just their founder, but their institutional memory and strategic vision. Just 2 months before DeLuca's death, an even more devastating blow struck the company. In July 2015, news broke that would destroy everything Subway had built around their health-focused image. Jared Fogle, their spokesperson for 15 years and the face of their brand, was arrested on charges involving crimes against children. The man who had convinced millions of Americans that Subway was healthy and wholesome was sentenced to 15 years in prison. The Jared scandal transformed Subway's greatest marketing asset into their biggest liability overnight. For 15 years, customers had associated Subway with Jared's inspiring weight loss story. Now that same face reminded people of something horrific. Subway immediately severed all ties with Fogle and removed his image from their marketing. But the damage was already done. Parents who had felt good about taking their kids to Subway suddenly felt uncomfortable walking into those same stores. While these crises dominated headlines, a more fundamental problem was quietly destroying Subway's business model. The rapid expansion that had made them famous was now working against them. Many markets had too many Subway locations, and they were competing against each other for the same customers. You could find situations where 2 Subway stores were located within a few blocks of each other, splitting the customer base and making both locations less profitable. This oversaturation revealed a misleading truth about Subway's success. Despite having more U.S. locations than McDonald's and Starbucks combined, Subway's average sales per store trailed competitors significantly. When you looked at sales per location instead of total store count, Subway's weakness became obvious. Their average location generated far less revenue than competitors. Chick-fil-A outlets generated twice the revenue per location, making Subway's massive network look more like a weakness than a strength. Food quality controversies began piling up, creating a perception crisis that drove even more customers away. Stories emerged about footlong sandwiches measuring 11 inches, chicken revealed to be low in actual meat content, and tuna questioned for its authenticity. Each story, whether completely accurate or somewhat exaggerated, chipped away at customer trust. People started wondering what else Subway might be misleading them about. These scandals created a snowball effect that was impossible to stop. Customers who might have dismissed one controversy as a mistake couldn't ignore multiple problems happening simultaneously. The brand that had built its reputation on freshness, health, and transparency was now associated with deception and quality issues. By 2019, Subway finally admitted what everyone could see. Their brand had become stale and desperately needed radical transformation. The company that had once revolutionized fast food was now falling behind competitors who offered better quality, better service, and better experiences. Subway needed someone who could make tough decisions and wasn't afraid to completely rebuild what wasn't working. Enter John Chidsey, who became CEO in 2019 after successfully turning around Burger King during his previous role. His experience leading a turnaround at Burger King made him the perfect choice to tackle Subway's challenges. Chidsey brought fresh perspective to a company that had been stuck in the past, and his assessment of Subway's problems was brutally honest. He described their menu as stale and recognized that the brand needed much more than minor adjustments. It needed a complete overhaul from top to bottom. The menu had remained largely unchanged for years, partly because of Fred DeLuca's illness and the management chaos that followed. While competitors were innovating and improving their offerings, Subway was serving essentially the same sandwiches they had been making for decades. Chidsey understood that customers had moved on, and Subway needed to catch up quickly or risk becoming completely irrelevant. In July 2021, Subway launched the Eat Fresh Refresh campaign, which represented the most extensive menu update in the company's entire history. This wasn't just adding a few new sandwiches or changing some ingredients. It was a fundamental reimagining of what Subway could be. New sandwiches appeared on menus, ingredients were upgraded, and the entire approach to food preparation was modernized. The campaign included a massive $80 million investment in meat slicers for their restaurants, allowing locations to slice meat in-house instead of using pre-sliced products that had been prepared elsewhere. This change was described as one of the most complex operational changes Subway had ever implemented. Installing meat slicers in thousands of locations required extensive training, new procedures, and significant coordination across their franchise network. The meat slicing investment showed Subway was serious about improving food quality and addressing customer concerns about freshness. Subway also made significant changes to their sandwich approach, shifting from their traditional, fully customizable model to more standardized offerings. The endless combinations that had once been Subway's signature were replaced with carefully crafted sandwich recipes designed by culinary experts. This standardization helped ensure consistency across locations and reduce the decision fatigue that some customers experienced when faced with too many choices. The celebrity endorsement strategy got a complete makeover as well. Gone were the days of relying on one spokesperson to carry the entire brand message. Instead, Subway partnered with multiple high-profile athletes, including Tom Brady and Steph Curry. These endorsements focused on performance, health, and athletic achievement. Positive associations that helped distance the brand from previous controversies. In 2023, Subway was sold to Roark Capital, a private equity firm that also owns Jimmy John's and other restaurant chains. This sale ended decades of family ownership and brought new resources and expertise to help accelerate the transformation. Roark Capital had experience turning around struggling restaurant brands, and they saw potential in Subway that others might have missed. Most importantly, Subway stopped their blind pursuit of new store openings and started closing underperforming locations instead. This represented a fundamental shift in strategy, prioritizing quality over quantity for the first time in the company's history. Instead of celebrating how many stores they had, Subway began focusing on how well each store performed. Early indicators suggest these dramatic changes might actually be working. Sales per location began improving, showing that customers were responding positively to the upgrades. The focus shifted from rapid expansion to making existing locations more successful and profitable. Whether these improvements represent the beginning of a genuine comeback or simply temporary gains in an increasingly competitive marketplace remains to be seen. If you've seen these changes in a Subway near you, share your experience in the comments and subscribe for more business deep dives.